Hello and welcome to another episode of Temporary Australians. I'm Jonesy.
And I'm Hursky.
And this is Maya. This is what we've got coming up on the show.
We find out if Canberra politicians really can ride. Jonesy and I go back to the 2008 opening of the new Fraser store in Sydney. Animal shares some of his dating tips with us. We check out what is wrong with wire rope. John Smith updates us on God Squad CMC. Jen Woods outlines her love of riding in the ACT. We ask, does it make sense to ride a scooter? We look at Joe's custom motorcycle. Sean Leonard talks of his favourite rides in Tasmania. And we check out the new boys' Hunter motorcycles.
Well, good morning everybody, and welcome to what a magnificent morning it is in Canberra for the second MPs and Senators motorcycle ride. In fact, over 1 million people in Australia are involved in motorcycling in one way or another. So we're here today to showcase the different varieties and different interests in motorcycling.
Look, this is a great event. It's only the second time we've done it, but it is important that we do it, that we remind ourselves that we share the road with a whole range of different people. I'm an official pillion. My partner rides. You'll see me out on the road on a regular basis with him, and we cover the full breadth of people in our community. There are some very bad things in motorcycling, as we all know, but there are also some very, very good things, and there are a whole stack of people just like me who ride because it feels good to go around a corner really fast.
It's not every day you get to go for a ride with the cast from Parliament House. At least they got on here.
Down Hindmarsh Drive and, getting up a bit of speed. It was really terrific.
A great way to start the morning. Prefer to keep doing this than what I've got to do later in the day.
When we arrived at Robbo's HD, it was time to get to the point.
Rather than working on motorcycling purely from a motorcycle safety perspective, recognising all the positives of motorcycling in the community.
Sean and I believe that governments for decades of all persuasions have reacted to motorcycling at a stereotypical level. We essentially deal with you guys, other than this event, we essentially deal with you when we're talking about safety stuff or when there's a law and order issue come up that needs attention. And that is only a minor part of the motorcycling scene. The vast amount that goes on in motorcycling is like this morning. It's fun, it's positive, and people are contributing an enormous amount to Australian society.
I'm a new parliamentarian for 12 months now, and this has been the best excuse I've had to come to Canberra.
And I think this restaurant says everything about motorcycling. This is a very schmick establishment. And I think the more people who came here for a bite of lunch would understand the people who ride bikes are people with perfectly ordinary attitudes to life.
You've mentioned some of the key statistics. The sales of motorbikes have gone up 50% in 5 years. I mean, that is very dramatic. Motorcycling is now seen as a solution to some of the transport problems, particularly in the big cities where there's so much congestion. They're also much more economical, much easier to park, and dare I say it, environmentally much more friendly than a motor car.
I mean, politicians love them or hate them. We need them, don't we? And they frame the laws of the country, and we need them on side. We need them to think about motorcycling. There's a lot of people that think that motorcyclists are crazy, and okay, so if you ride a motorcycle, you take your life in your own hands, and you really don't deserve anything from anybody else. But it's a lifestyle. We love it.
I'm actually contemplating getting a bike again. I've got a lot of mates that have got bikes, and with my past, I've ridden a lot on the road as well. I've had a dirt road bike in the past. So acutely aware of the hazards, and the statistics are quite significant. The number of motorbikes that are being purchased now, and the number of bikes out there, and it's a great lifestyle.
We intend firmly to become an annual event. Last year I was fortunate enough to be in Brussels when the members of the European Parliament ride was on for the 15th time, and there was nearly 100 people on that, and I think we had about 30 here this morning. So yeah, it's been a fantastic day. Like, what a perfect spring morning it is in Canberra today.
Back in 2008, Fraser Motorcycles opened its new store in Concord.
This has always been the number one people. I reckon they should have done it years ago.
It's definitely 2008. It's a vast improvement on the old place. Keep up or get left behind, so congratulations to Fraser's.
Peter Garrett dropped by to help me with my book and to check out the store.
It's called Signing the Book, and it's a good book to sign.
I just want to say a couple of things. In the bike scene, we're not known for writing books, certainly not writing books that are positive about the motorcycle experience. And so I think a lot of people outside the bike scene don't realise just how much fun and adventure and challenge it is, how much joy it brings to our lives.
Spending a fair amount of time on the road as a musician especially, you see the bikes out there and you just sort of think the sound of it, the look of it, there's something pretty good happening, I think. It's really well proportioned. There's a lot of natural light in the shop, but it's not just a place about selling or servicing bikes. It's got a really strong kind of culture feel to it.
One great addition was the diner with its public viewing area where customers could give their bikes a run.
There's some great fashion items that you're about to see, items from Harley Davidson, BMW and Ducati. So without any further ado, welcome our models. This is one of those places because when you want to buy a bike and the first thing that you have to get the approval of is the missus. So if you bring her to a place like this and she can go and sit up in a loft and get a, and watch some telly and have a latte, then you've got a better chance of buying a bike because if the kids come along with you as well, they'll be nagging you, Dad, I want to go home, I want to go home. But they can get on the PlayStation, so that's a good thing. It's an experience and it's a great experience for me.
If you could give us some tips to the young motorcycle riders out there who are just starting and wanting to encourage their girls, or the girls that they might meet on the road.
I had a couple
to come for
before.
rides. So how do you do it?
I had
Tell
a
us
couple
your
before.
secret.
A couple of hooter girls or something.
What's your secret?
Yeah.
Tell us your secret.
How do you do it?
Smell yourself. Be yourself, just be natural.
Yep.
Don't be a make-believe or anything, just be yourself. How you going, darling? What's your name? So, my name. Do you like animals? Yeah. Oh, you got me, my darling. Just start away. They're smiling, see?
Yep.
You got them half one. Right? So there you go. You want to see that beast over there? Look at that. Then you pip a horn or something like that, That's an unusual horn or whatever. There's three quarters of the way there. The final step is we're going to New York for tea. Cullett Street. Get round there. Might have a sandwich on it. Oh, darling, I'll shout you pay. What'd you say? I'll shout you pay. She ends up having to pay. Yeah, because I got no money. But I get a free feed and she gets my company.
So in summary, you charm them, you take them for a ride and you let them pay for dinner. That's your tips.
Yeah.
Thank you, Animal. You notice if you go for a ride anywhere in Australia, there's this wire rope barriers and the Armco barriers as well. These things are a nightmare for riders because we know if we come off our bikes and slide into the exposed posts or land on the wire rope or land on the sharp edges of the Armco, we're going to come to serious grief. You might ask yourself, why on earth are these barriers being put up around Australia? Well, those of you who are a little bit older might remember the old movie Catch-22. It's a war movie where those pilots, they spent their time bombing and it obviously had an effect on them and all they wanted to do was go home. The only trouble was to get out of the war, they had to be insane. So if they couldn't cope anymore with what they were doing, they went to see the commanding officer. He'd ask them a simple question, do you want to go home? And if they said no, well then they could stay and keep flying. And if they said yes, that proved they weren't insane. So they could never get away. They had to keep flying till the war ended or until they were killed. Many years ago when this wire rope barrier stuff was spread around the world, rider groups jumped up and down and said, look, it's dangerous, it's going to hurt us, it's going to kill us. Now that's proved to be true in a number of incidents in Australia. But the bureaucrats said, well, can you prove that it's dangerous? And so the rider groups, we all said, no, because you didn't test it before you introduced it. And so they said, well, when you can prove it's dangerous, then we'll revisit the issue. Catch-22.
God Squad, in terms of the patch, actually began in Sydney, and I'm attributed with being the founder of God Squad, which is both true and untrue, in the sense that there was a Sydney chapter. My calling to go into the bike scene as a pretty straight guy at the time predated that, and as I increasingly felt the call in that direction, I came across the guys in Sydney, and by then I structured in my own head what I thought it should look like, and it was a lot more radical. I was a bit more to the left, I was a bit more radical about social issues. So what I started here, which became the charter chapter for all God Squads that now exist, because Sydney folded not very long after I started here in Melbourne. What I started down here is really another form, but we basically said, why reinvent the wheel if these guys have already made a good, good patch to use if they're happy? And they offered for me to actually just grab the patch and run with it and do what I wanted. I wasn't happy about that. My feeling was that if I was going to do something in the scene of the guys out in the clubs, that I really had to put myself under a proper period of nomineeship, and so I did. And a small group of us, I put them under with me, and then we began the Melbourne chapter. And from then, of course, by then Sydney was folding, and we really shaped the thing as it is now in our own way. I was thankful for the relationship with the guys in Sydney because I had no bike background, so I spent a bit of time riding around with them to get the feel of the bike scene, so that although I had independent stuff I wanted to do, it still gave me a start, so I was always grateful.
The origins really from Sydney to Melbourne, but it's expanded out of Melbourne. It's now gone international.
Yeah. It's now way up in the Ukraine, dirt poor, but great guys, and they're running things like God's Garage, which is both outreach and a sort of emerging church for radical people that never go near the church in the Ukraine. We're in Lithuania, Finland, Norway, Germany, Holland, the Republic of Ireland, the UK, of course, and down into Wales. Very small cause in New Zealand, and now 12 or 13 chapters here in Australia. We've now got folks interested in Italy and a couple of other European countries. We haven't hit Asia yet, but it's really growing, and the exciting thing I think for us is that, of course, we were certainly the first Christian patch-wearing club to go international from Australia, and in a sense we predated Christian Motorcycle Association too by many years with God Squad. And in fact, I think we may have been the first actual patch-wearing club, Christian or otherwise, to have gone international.
I have had friends who rode for a long time, but hadn't really been involved myself. But a friend of mine said she was going to go and learn to ride, and she thought I should come too. And I said, okay, yes, I'll do that. That sounds like fun. And I actually didn't pass. And I really wanted to get my licence. You know, I sort of, that couple of days had convinced me that that's what I wanted to do. I don't do fail very well. And I went back and got my licence. And hooked ever since.
So what sort of bikes have you been riding during that time?
Well, I'm a bit boring actually. My first bike was a Suzuki TU250, which was just beautiful. It was light and manoeuvrable. When I was a beginner rider, that was just perfect for me. But I also really enjoyed going away and you know, going camping and having a lot of fun. And the TU just wasn't quite big enough to be out on the open road safely. I felt I couldn't get around traffic and things. So I found my V-Star, and I have to say I just love it so much. Every now and then I think I'd like to get a new bike, but I just come back to the V-Star. It's just lovely. I love it.
They are the saviour of our type of motorcycling because, at least in this town, if motorcycling hadn't become a commuting asset, then I think legislation would have got tighter and tighter and tighter. Now, I think that scooters and commuter cycles made people who had to drive to work and got stuck in that congestion. We have Olympic grade congestion in this town.
It's certainly high profile, mate.
And they're stuck there, you know, and they're sitting there watching the bicycles and the motorbikes and the pedestrians pass them. And they're saying, well, you know, maybe it's not such a good idea to crack down so hard on these people. After all, if he gets to work and parks, he's not taking up a car space, or she's not. A lot of women riding now. So scooters, very big in Melbourne.
So are there any scooter shops in the precinct?
Not specifically. I mean, I'm sure Peter Stevens sells scooters, but there are around the suburbs. And then, of course, on Johnson Street, just over that hill there, is Vespa House. And is that ever an Italian place to visit?
So tell us, Joe, what are you sitting on?
I'm sitting on a custom Harley Triumph, 3-cylinder Triumph motor, full custom chopper, built in America, put together here in Australia by Ken from Cobbercraft Engineering, maintained by South Coast Custom Choppers at Caringbah, and owned by a guy named Jamal and myself.
So what's, explain your love of these sort of bikes. I mean, you've got a few of them, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I have got a few of them. I built a couple of them as well, sold them off to the right people that come along. I think the biggest thing is the freedom of just being able to spend, well, many late hours trying to keep the missus happy when you don't see her, tinkering away in the garage, in the workshop, putting them together, designing them, not so much this one, but the rest of them. It's just lots and lots of hours. Nothing you could ever get back if you ever sold them, that's for sure.
Could you just take us through the handmade bits on this, please?
The custom wheels are obviously the biggest feature, front and rear, and they're probably about nearly $10,000 worth being built at custom. The brakes are all custom as well. The fork lengths are custom. The triple trees are made. The frame is all been custom. It's pretty much everything on this bike is custom. The only thing that's not custom is the motor, which is off a Triumph. And then we had to design the gearbox to work, that would work to drive the big back tyre, the guards, the inbuilt dash, the trumpets for the fuel injection. It's just everything on this bike is pretty much custom. You couldn't buy nothing for this off the showroom floor.
With a bike like this, what riding use could you put it to? It's very low slung to the ground, so is it registerable?
This is registerable. You have to do a lot to it to register it. It has got air ride suspension, so you basically, once you start it up, lifts off the ground, switch it off, just drops back down to the ground. The actual stand or the frame is the actual stand. So with a 380 rear tyre on it, it's actually pretty hard to turn corners on it. And at nearly 13 and a half foot long, you have to do a 20-point turn if you're turning it in the street, that's for sure. So
if you're going to Melbourne, the Hume freeways to go, I guess?
Straight all the way, that's it. Straight all the way, or in a trailer.
I think the best way to go around Tasmania is anti-clockwise, so head to the west coast first, then down to Hobart, and then back up the east coast. In terms of particular favourite bits of road, I really like the whole Tasman Highway up the east coast is just absolutely fantastic. In fact, not only the roads, but the people in the whole area. The Glamorgan Spring Bay municipality, which is where Coles Bay and Freycinet National Park is, they actually declared themselves as a motorcycle-friendly municipality. A Road Rider magazine has initiated a Motorcycle Tourism Award, and they have presented the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council with the inaugural Motorcycle Tourism Award, which I had the pleasure of presenting to the Mayor, Bertrand Cadard, just a few weeks ago. So that whole East Coast Road is an absolute ripper. But also on the West Coast, one of the most favourite roads, and I've heard this from so many people who come down to Tasmania or go down to Tasmania from interstate. On the West Coast, it's called the Reese Dam Road. Got a pretty appropriate road designation number, it's B52. I'm not sure exactly how long it is, I think it's around about 30 or 40 kilometres, but it's just corner after corner after corner. All perfect radius, great surface, no off cambers, an absolute delight, an absolute delight.
this the first time Hunter's had a display at the Sydney Motorcycle Show?
The first time at Sydney, but we've done all the other shows. We were at Melbourne last year, and we've just finished the Perth one this year.
It seems to have gone very well though, lots of people around.
Everybody loves them. We love the bikes obviously, but we're surprised at the amount of crowd response that we get every time, and flattered, you know what I mean? But these bikes are hit a market, you know. They're the sort of thing that we would have loved to ride when we were kids, Greg, you know.
Well, they're custom level entry bikes is effectively what they are, aren't they?
Wow, they're a production bike, but they look like a custom bike. And that's what the kids want. You know, they don't want to ride around on something that looks like everybody else has got, or a poor imitation of a Harley Davidson. They want something that looks cool, and that's what we got.
Now, Hunter is an Australian company, and you assemble the bikes over here, I believe.
Yeah, we do. We manufacture in China, and then we import them, and the final assembly is done at our local dealers in Australia. And we've got 30 dealers across the country, and looking for more good ones.
What sort of impact has Paulie had, do you think, on your sales?
Oh, Paulie's fantastic. He's a real card. His latest TV show, Houses on SBS, they're riding our bikes in the TV show.
So that was very fortunate. Did he just pick a Hunter, or did you bring him into it in some way?
Yeah, Polly was a customer of ours. He bought a Hunter motorcycle as his first bike to learn to ride on, loved it, and then he was coming up with the concept of a new show, and he wanted to put motorbikes in there because his new passion of motorcycle riding. And so he got a bike club involved, a pseudo bike club, and they're all riding our motorbikes. And he's done some wonderful stuff. You see him hacking around on his motorbike. He steals a bike off the club, rides it to Melbourne, runs a muck, bonks chicks, does all the stuff that Paulie does as his alter ego, Frankie Falzoni, and it's great fun.
Well, I believe he's got Angry Anderson involved and Jonesy from Temporary Australians.
Yeah, absolutely. Angry's the president of Hunters MC, the pseudo bike club that's on the show, and you'll see them on there doing their stuff, and they're great. They look the part. They're, you know, Greg, you and I are both motorcycle riders from the start, and you see these guys, and they look like a real bike club. They're excellent representation of what we're about. The good fun times we love to have at Hunter and riding motorbikes.
Better than Sons of Anarchy.
Different.
Well, that was a great show, mate.
That was a great show. I'm going to take this bike for a ride.
I thought I could take it for a ride.
No, you can't ride this bike. You cannot ride this bike.
All right, you take it and I'll take the pictures.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.